Accounting Unit 2, 2018, Paper 2, Module 1, prepared and presented by Mr. James. We have here uh, some data that deals with the wages and salaries of Zamo Limited. And before we get into the question, let's see what they required. It requires to calculate the following: the number of employees in the assembling department who will be required to meet the production target of 1,680 units, and the weekly pay for Scott and Celia for that week. So this must be 2 employees there, and they have a target production that they want to reach, and they want to find out how many employees it will take to make that. Okay, Zamol Limited manufactures an electronic device that passes to 3 departments before completion is followed. We have 3 departments here: the time, the employee, and the wage rate for each employee in the various departments. Additional information: the company had set a target for the completion of 1,680 units for the previous week. The standard work week for each employee is 35 hours per week. Employees in the foreman and assembling department are paid a premium bonus where the employee receives a quarter of the time saved in additional pay. Employees in the finishing department do not qualify for a premium bonus but instead get 1.5 of the hourly rate for any overtime work. Right? So we have differences between the different departments as far as the remuneration is concerned. Scott and Celia work in the foreman and finishing department respectively. The following information relates to their work hours and output for the previous week. Scott worked 38 hours, Celia worked 40, output was 56 and 114 respectively. Okay, so the first part of the question, right? One employee will produce 30, he will work for 35 hours. That is 60 minutes at 60 minutes. So we multiply 35 by 60 minutes, and it's taken half an hour in the assembly department to produce 1 unit. So we divide that by 30, and we'll get one employee will produce 70 units per week. The number of employees to make the 1,680 units would be 1,680 divided by 70, which gives us 24 employees. Okay. Next, they ask us to calculate the weekly pay for Scott and Celia for that week. Right. So Scott P would be his 35 hours multiplied by 1550, because he is in the foreman department. We are told that they are paid a premium bonus where the employee receives a quarter of the time saved in additional pay. Right? So his additional pay, we have to calculate the quarter of the whatever time. So let's do that first. Right? Standard hours would be 45 minutes by the 56 units, and we'll get 2520. The 45 minutes is coming from here, and the actual hours is taken from here. Actual is 38 hours at 60 minutes, that's 2280. When you minus 2, we get 240 minutes saved, and that is equal to 4 hours. So in additional to his pay of 1550 an hour, you will get 2 or 4 hours pay again. So 35 by 1550 will give us 542.50, and then a quarter of the hours saved before that we just calculated here. Quarter by 4 by 1550 gives us another 1550 and his total pay would be $558. Celia's weekly pay would be her regular hours, 35 by $20.30. That's it from here. It was $710.50. And her overtime, because she worked 40 hours, would be 5 by 20 by 30 by 1.5. $152.75. The total fee would be $862.75. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. In this part, we are asked to make a decision. We are to prepare a cost comparison for the manufacture and purchase of the sub-assembly component. Okay, so it's a make or buy decision, and we are given the information here. So let's see what the data is. Assume that Zamor Limited has prepared the following cost estimates for the manufacture of a sub-assembly component based on an annual production of 8,000 units. A supplier has offered to provide the sub-assembly at a price of $16 each. Two-thirds of factory overheads, which represents executive salaries, rent, depreciation, and taxes, continue regardless of the decision. We will leave that out of the decision, okay? And we they want us to prepare a cost comparison for the manufacture and purchase of the sub-assembly component. Okay, so let's right. So the the relevant costs would be direct materials, direct labor, and variable overhead. Out of the fixed overhead, the $2 or one third of it is going to be a cost saving if we decide to manufacture, and we'll take off two because these are avoidable costs. It could be avoided. The purchase price, on the other hand, is $16. And when we take the total, we will see that manufacturing is 11, and the relevant cost of manufacturing is 11, and purchasing is 16. So our decision would be the company should make the components and the marginal cost of production is less than the purchase price. Define the term EOQ inventory model. State two assumptions of the EOQ model. Determine the number of production runs for Zamor Limited using the EOQ inventory model. Note: to determine optimal production, ordering costs must be replaced by setup costs. Okay. Assume that Zamor Limited is now incurring total annual setup and carrying costs of 10,000. Calculate the firm's savings when the EOQ inventory model is applied. I was not too sure what they wanted here, but okay, Zamor Limited has expanded its business, entered the financial services market, and is now manufacturing its own credit cards for its credit card division. The company plans to manufacture 27,000 cards to meet its annual demand. So here we have the annual demand. Zamor Limited expects that the cards will be distributed evenly throughout the year and has estimated the carrying cost of each credit card to be $3. Now we have the credit card carrying cost of $3 per unit. The production cost for each setup is $500, and we are told to treat that as the ordering cost. In addition, the company also uses the economic order quantity inventory model to manage its inventory. So for this, you were not given the formula, and you supposed to know the formula for EOQ, right? But first, let's look at the model itself. The EOQ model is an attempt to determine the order size that will minimize the inventory cost. When we say the inventory cost here, what we are looking at is the carrying cost and the ordering cost. Okay. Part 2, we ask for two assumptions of the EOQ model. I've given you a number of them here. Any of the following two: the annual demand rate for inventory is uniform and known. The cost of items do not vary with order size. All of the order is delivered at the same time. The lead time is known well in advance. By lead time, we mean the time between ordering and when the goods arrive at your premises. The cost of placing an order is constant regardless of the size of the order, and the cost of holding inventory is a linear function. Okay, so any two of those would have surfaced. And we're looking at part 3 now. Determine number of production runs. You have to do the EOQ, calculate the EOQ, and that is the square root. The formula for it is the square root of 2 twice the annual demand multiplied by the ordering cost divided by the carrying cost per unit. Okay, you must do this part first before you find the square root, right? So when you work out this, you get 3000 production runs. Okay, and like I said, I wasn't so sure what it is they were asking here. Total annual setup and carrying cost of 10,000. Calculate the firm saving when the EOQ inventory model is applied. So it appears to me that the 10,000 minus the 3,000 by 3 production runs by the carrying cost will give us 9,000, and we take the 1,000 from the 10,000, we'll get save $1,000. During the production of electronic devices, solid chemical waste is produced. Outline one importance of chemical waste disposal, and two, state two guidelines which must be followed when disposing of solid chemical waste. Now, this is a part of the syllabus, disposal of hazardous waste. It's involve a course that should be built into your cost of production. Usually, we find students don't read up on it, and so they don't know how to answer these questions. Okay, so you should find a useful textbook, or you can Google it and get how to dispose of chemical waste in production, right? The first part, proper chemical waste disposal is important because the chemicals can be hazardous and can contaminate the environment, and human life and plant and animal life will be at risk. Okay, so this answer would suffice for 2 marks. 2. They wanted two guidelines which must be followed when disposing of chemical. I've given you 4 here. First, you will separate the waste according to the permissible categories, right? You have different categories of waste: liquid waste, solid waste, and some stages in between those two. So you have to separate them, and you can't put them in the same containers and things like that. Collect waste in containers that are chemically compatible and with secure lids. Okay, it must be chemically compatible. You cannot put some types of liquids in plastic containers because it's going to melt through the plastic. Okay, that's what it meant by that. The waste must be in compatible containers. You must label your containers clearly and do not mix solid and waste. Okay, brings us to the end of module 2, and Stay tuned, don't run away. Module 2 is coming up.